In America, sex work is a taboo subject. Americans would much rather discuss police brutality, gender equality, and drug abuse rather than sex. Because of this, it makes talking about prostitution very difficult. And it's the reason I picked this topic today. So let's dive in. What is sex work? Well, Webster's dictionary describes prostitution as the act or practice of engaging in promiscuous sexual relations, especially for money. Essentially, it's the selling of sexual acts or various behaviors. While prostitution is not the oldest profession, contrary to popular belief, it is still a widely profession today. In America, prostitution is illegal. While states do have some individual freedoms when it comes to what is allowed, such as exotic dancing or partial or full frontal nudity, sex for pay is illegal. And because that is so, let's talk about the system we have set up for prostitutes themselves and for the local and federal governments. When it comes to the idea of legalizing prostitution, many believe this to be morally wrong. Clearly, Christianity plays a big role in American cultures and laws, and this law is one that reflects this. In Leviticus 29:1, it reads, "If she profanes herself by whoring, she profanes her father. She shall be burnt with fire." Ouch. Clearly, not many people actually believe that sex workers should be burned. Many just think it's a sin. Yet there are other people who believe prostitution should be criminalized because of the effects to the people in that industry. Melissa Farley, PhD in American clinical psychology, claims that if a state legalizes prostitution, it allows for sexual abuse, exploitation, and violence against women to become a part of everyday culture. These people believe that women are forced, not willingly, go into this profession based off factors of ethnicity, sex, income, and history of abuse. Also, that once the women get into these fields, they will continue extreme psychological abuse, as well as being abused both physically and sexually weakly. Many also believe that prostitution not only degrades women, but strips them of their humanity and coerces those women into a direction of a livelihood that leads them to feelings of powerlessness. So they think that saying it gives women freedom is a cruel joke, that people who haven't been in this situation do and cannot understand. Now, besides the effect that it holds for the workers in that industry, it also holds an effect on federal governments. Joe Vargas, former captain of the Anaheim Police Department, that says that if the government were to legalize paid sex, that women will be forced into this field by pimps, but this time they are given help by the law. Simply that it is another way to enforce slavery under the mask of giving women rights. Many hold the firm belief that if governments are to legalize it, they'd be taking blood taxes, that governments play an important part in setting laws that don't allow for abuse of any group of people. They believe it is worth the taxes in order to help regulate and keep women out of a job of systematic abuse. On the other hand, people who are against the right to criminalize prostitution say it is a benefit for prostitution and federal governments. Others believe having keeping sex for pay illegal hurts women, that continuing the illegal patterns of buying and selling of sex, it will inevitably lead to the downfall of legal help for all sex workers. In an article written by Amnesty International, which is a global movement for human rights, speaks on how sex workers cannot go to the police if an issue with a client arises because of the fear of criminalization or loss of income. So, with the lack of police help, this leads to harassment, physical violence, sexual abuse, and potentially rape. Many people believe this to be true. They think that there is abuse in those jobs, but since workers cannot go to the police, they are being abused, and that the abuse will continue to cycle. Amnesty's solution is to legalize both, the sale and the purchase of sex, for this purpose of protecting, essentially, women. They state that if the legal system legalizes both, then prostitutes are able to work with the police in order to regulate abuse, which would potentially eliminate that cycle. In addition to that, others see it as being a financial gain for the government. Frank Marshall, a retired law enforcer of 30 years, claimed that despite any person who believes sex work is moral or not, it is a gross use of legal power and strong misconduct from the court systems to criminalize it. Him and many others say that the legal system has enough serious crimes to deal with than two adults having consensual sex for money. Yet others believe it costs taxpayers an ungodly amount. where if it were to be regulated and taxed, that the government could be making a profit instead. Some use Germany as an example, saying that if we legalized it like Germany, we could have a huge economic gain, like being in a $1 million industry. Now, seeing the faults on both sides of this problem, it is not an easy debate whether one is greater than the other. Both have their faults and both have their benefits. It is more up to you whether you think stopping the abuse of a systematic law is more important or helping struggling women being abused by this law.